Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Phil Arno.
And I'm Kim Piazza.
A lot of things going on in Albany this past week, and actually in the last couple of months.
That's almost an understatement,
yeah,
right?
we have Sheldon Silver and Dean Skelos, and the U.S. Attorney has been very active with Albany, and the three men in the room, actually 2 out of the 3. We have Carl Palladino with us in studio today to discuss something that he's been talking about for quite a while. Carl, you've been on this subject ever since I can remember.
That's a long time.
Maybe this is the end of, or the beginning of the end of the cesspool in Albany. So
well, it's certainly a start.
Time to clean it up.
What do you think about the case that has been presented in both of these instances with Silver and with Skelos? Is it a good case?
I think in both cases, Preet Bharara, the U.S. Attorney from Manhattan, has picked cases that are provable. He has solid evidence, and even his representation of the Silver charges enhanced the prospects of conviction. The case against Skelos, the complaint reads, or the indictment reads like a storybook. It reads like right out of the mob, the mob culture. A man so arrogant and so disrespectful of the public and his constituents for the things that he says in the indictment. They should actually publish some squibs from the indictment. I think it would be a good exercise for people to actually see what some of their elected officials feel about them.
The hubris.
These guys have been in power for so long, and this is, I think...
That's part of the problem.
It's been going on. Why now?
This has been happening for so long, and
well, because historically
we
have very weak prosecutors on the state level. Our county district attorneys don't have the intestinal fortitude to take on a big political scene. So it's been hands off to politics. The U.S. Attorney in Albany is another man lacking the intestinal fortitude, and sure enough, Bill Hochul, who is now terribly conflicted because his wife is the lieutenant governor, he's never had the disposition to chase down the criminality that's been going on, and has become so blatantly obvious. These people over the years have become so reckless and careless that even after the Silver indictment, Skelos and his son are talking on the phone about their criminality. I mean, it didn't even scare them. They weren't even taken back by or a little bit more cautious about what they were saying and doing. It's just it's a terrible description of the way our government functions. The events after Skelos's resignation the other day, in selecting his chosen successor, Skelos's chosen successor, Flanagan, a guy who has little relationship or understanding of the problems of upstate New York, when upstate actually controls 20 out of the 32 votes in the caucus, and to have, I believe it's 6 upstate people turn on the upstate, their upstate constituencies, and vote with the downstaters to keep the power in this group of Long Island people who do not even represent the interests of Long Island. They're so corrupted.
If I'm not mistaken, a 27-year veteran of
29-year veteran
Long
of
Island.
Yeah.
How can we expect anything to be different?
Well, you get the guy. He was part of the cabal that put together the group that voted for the gay marriage bill. Not that the gay marriage bill didn't have merit, okay, but it was the promises that were made. A guy like Grisani had made a promise to his constituents that he would never vote for it. Well, on that basis, he was elected. He then evolved. He says he had an evolution in his thinking, and he evolved and morphed into this guy who voted for it. They were compelled to vote for it by the leadership. The leadership wanted to hide behind this facade, that 4 rogue Republicans went out and voted what Cuomo wanted. In reality, it was Libas, it was Maziarz, and it was Skelos that put together this group of 4 and promised them all this money. Now they're getting their payback. You saw Grisani's got appointed to the Court of Claims by Cuomo. It's payback time for giving them that vote when they wanted it, and really not acting as the opposition government, which they should. It's that balance that is so necessary in today's politics, okay? Having that balance of an opposition party that's actually acting as an opposition instead of in concert and complicit with the Democrats. They call them rhinos now, Republicans in name only. So the other day they elected Flanagan from Long Island. Here's a guy that voted against the SAFE Act. Here's a guy that didn't use, along with Skelos, didn't use the power of being 1/3 of the government, okay, to give us fracking. You think that could have been negotiated? I mean, Warren Anderson would have certainly negotiated it on behalf of upstate New York because he was an upstater from Binghamton. That southern tier is suffering terribly economically because of the lack of that fracking industry. You go across the border in Pennsylvania or in Ohio, and they're flourishing. They've paid off all their debt, small communities, paying off all their bonds, and you know, the state treasury has reaped billions of dollars in royalties off of this fracking business. And here Cuomo and our legislature deny it to us. There were 2 traitors, Kathy Young, a guy named Mike Nozzolio. The other one's named Seward and French and a couple other guys from downstate, or not downstate, but down in the Hudson Valley. But those were the 2 upstaters that could have held this up. The voting caucus was 17 to 15. Okay, they could have, if they swung the other way, they could have stopped the nonsense of appointing Flanagan as the leader. But they chose not to. They chose to side with the downstaters. And for that reason, okay, again, were they complicit with Skelos? Were they doing Skelos' bidding because they're afraid Skelos might turn on them and cook them, okay, as to get himself a lighter sentence for what they're going to convict him of? Mm-hmm. You know, you got to ask all those questions. Kathy Young has always been a very weak person. She illustrated once again that she's very, very weak when her and her close buddy Nozzolio, okay, bolted on the upstate voters.
How does what's happened here with Skelos and Silver? How do you project this affecting Cuomo?
Well, I was talking about Skelos and Silver when I was running for governor. Mm-hmm. I've been a student of government. I know corruption when I see it. I called them out back then. I've been calling them out ever since. People didn't believe it. Obviously, you know, people, oh, well, look at, they got him on one little thing. What kind of justice is that, one little thing? Yeah, they got him on one thing that they happened to get caught at, okay? One thing that we were able to get enough evidence on. How brazen is this pay-to-play game in Albany? It's out of control. Everything is done behind the scenes, no transparency, whether it be the governor or the heads of either legislative branch. My hope is that 3 men in a room turn into 3 men in a jail cell. I mean,
well, it looks like we're on our way.
It should go.
We're on our way to that, aren't we?
I think that the way Preet Bharara has approached it, putting pressure on the kids of both Silver's daughter, mm-hmm. He already indicted Silver's daughter's husband. She was the office manager of the company that played the
Ponzi scheme, right?
So he's obviously got some pressure there. He might indict her. Silver hopefully will roll. Now, I think Silver is a lot more brazen of a human being than Skelos. Silver's got a lot more intestinal fortitude, so he might just go and serve his time. Skelos, he's a coward. That yellow streak right up his back. He'll roll over on whoever he can roll over to save him and his son for jail. And the scheme they caught him at was all to benefit his kid, mm-hmm. his useless kid. Everybody looks at it and says, "Oh my God, you know how terrible that kid got his father involved in these things." The father did it consciously. He knew what he was doing, and this is just the tip of the iceberg that they got them on. But hopefully they'll be successful.
Well, there's another question that I have about Cuomo, but I think we're going to wrap up this segment because the question
It'll take a while to answer.
Be a
so
long answer.
We'll
so
have to come
we're
back.
going to come back after this, and there's a lot of interesting things to get into right after this.